skin picking, hair pulling, nail biting, they are responses to stress. The thing is, they don't help us to actually process the stress and the overwhelm and the anxiety and whatever else that we're experiencing. They just help us to put a lid on it, to kind of distract, dampen it down. They give us a little break, they give us a release. And of course, because they don't actually help us to process what we're feeling and connect to ourselves, they inevitably just add to the stress. Because this is the thing with chronic behaviors, is that they are short-term solutions for a long-term problem. And short-term solutions for long-term problems usually just exacerbate the problem in the long term. Today, I want to talk to you about somatics. We're going to talk about what somatics are, how they apply to BFRBs, a common mistake so many people make when they start this work. And at the end, I'm going to share with you a resource to help you step into this world or to deepen even further into it. Now, I need to be honest with you. I am not feeling great. I was even questioning whether or not I should record this episode. I had a migraine yesterday. I am still feeling the effects of that today. I feel very tired. I have a lot of tension in my neck and my shoulders. The past couple of weeks, I've been so stressed. I've had some really bad nights of sleep that have not helped. I've had a pretty long ongoing acne breakout that is just super annoying. And it's the kind of breakout where I counted just before this, I have 7 or 8 white pimples on my face and probably 5 or so more little pink ones that are sore. And, as we know with chronic skin picking, these are all things that would be deeply, deeply triggering. Not sleeping well, having stress, acne breakout, physical pain like a migraine. And I'll tell you what, I haven't fallen into a single picking session. And I'm not afraid that I will. I trust myself. And a big part of that is because I've learned how to integrate somatics into my life. Somatics uses the mind-body connection to help you survey your internal self and listen to signals from your body on pain, discomfort, or imbalance. What that basically means is somatics is the practice or the work of connecting to your body and understanding your subjective perception of what is happening inside your body. What that means is no one can tell you what you are experiencing but you, because it is subjective. Only you can know what's going on inside your body, what you're feeling, what sensations are there. And it is the intentional focus on our bodily experience that separates it from something like yoga, for example. Classic yoga is not a somatic practice because it has specific movements and flows and techniques that you get taught and you do them. Now, to make something like yoga a somatic practice, it would be to connect to your body, tune into what you're experiencing, and move your body in a way that feels right for you. That would be a somatic experience. For example, everyone knows downward dog. You could do downward dog in a yoga class, doesn't make it somatic, but if you do downward dog and you feel into your body and you notice what sensations are there and you move your body in that position in a way that feels right for you, that can become a somatic practice. It's about tuning in with your body. How are you feeling? What are you feeling? What sensations are there? And responding to that in a way that serves you. Another example is if I have tension in my neck and shoulders, which I often do, and I do some stretches. Stretching my neck isn't necessarily a somatic practice, but I can turn it into a somatic experience by tuning into the tension in my neck and noticing what is being held there. What am I feeling? What emotion is tied to that tension? Most of the time it's stress, it's oh well, maybe it's feeling like I'm not good enough. There can be, because emotions are stored inside the body. And so when we connect to the body, we feel into it, we feel into any tension or whatever sensations we're experiencing, we can notice what emotions we're maybe holding on to, what we need to release, maybe what we just need to sit with and let be, what we maybe want to understand a little more. We get a lot of information. Our body gives us so much information about what we need in any given moment. And a lot of us are so disconnected from our bodies. Because that's how we learned to. A lot of us were taught to be in our heads and not in our bodies. We were taught to be logical. We were taught to just push ourselves harder. We were taught that anger wasn't good, that sadness should be hidden, that excitement shouldn't be too loud, that jealousy is selfish, and honestly, that If your needs get in the way of someone else's, then you're probably being selfish. And the thing is, our emotions connect us to our body because they happen in our body. And so when we are ashamed or put down for having certain emotions or experiencing certain emotions when we're young, we're going to disconnect from our body in those moments. And the more emotions that we aren't taught how to process and understand as children, the more disconnected we are going to be. And if you look at whoever raised you and you see what is their connection like to their emotions, how do they handle their own emotions? Do they show much emotion, or do they keep themselves behind a wall? Do they show way too much emotion? Do they offload their emotions onto other people? That says a lot about how connected you might be or not be to your own body. Now, for myself, I was deeply, deeply disconnected from my body. And so a huge part of my healing process and what I see for a lot of my clients is the reconnection through somatic works and other practices. And I wonder if you're already getting a sense of why this really helps us to heal from BFRBs, because BFRBs, they are tools that we use to help us to handle stress. If we are feeling overwhelmed, anxious, bored, honestly, being super bored can be stressful. It's very uncomfortable to be bored and not know what to do with yourself. It doesn't feel good. That can be a source of stress. We don't like to sit in that space. It's not relaxing. So these behaviors, skin picking, hair pulling, nail biting, they are responses to stress. The thing is, they don't help us to actually process the stress and the overwhelm and the anxiety and whatever else that we're experiencing. They just help us to put a lid on it, to kind of distract, dampen it down. They give us a little break. They give us a release. And of course, because they don't actually help us to process what we're feeling and connect to ourselves, they inevitably just add to the stress. Because this is the thing with chronic behaviors, is that they are short-term solutions for a long-term problem. And short-term solutions for long-term problems usually just exacerbate the problem in the long term. Just like someone who drinks to deal with social anxiety, it's a short-term solution for a long-term problem. If someone has social anxiety, you probably had it for a long time. Drinking isn't going to help you to get over the social anxiety, but it is going to help you to manage it in that moment. So they don't help us to deepen our emotional resilience, to deepen our capacity to deal with stress. Somatics do. They help us to become more resilient to stress. So we don't have to try and find wild ways to remove all the stress from our life, which is what a lot of people are trying to do. They help us to better manage the stress that we experience, so we can stay more grounded, more connected to ourselves, and feel better about ourselves despite what's going on around us. And I gotta say, my life is far more stressful. There is so much more pressure in my life, so much more responsibility in my life than 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was chronically picking my skin. I don't anymore. And I am under far more pressure than I ever used to be. And I also love my life so much more. I love myself so much more. I'm so much more happier with who I am. I'm far more comfortable in my skin. I like, most of the time, not all the time, I like the pressure and the responsibility because I love this work. I love running my own business, and I love helping people like you to heal from their BFRB, to connect deeper to their authenticity, to become more confident, to expand in their lives and create the life that they deserve. I love that work. And it's also a lot of pressure sometimes. Putting out a podcast episode every single week is a lot of pressure sometimes. Running group programs and doing social media and marketing my business and creating free resources and supporting as many people as I can, it's pressure, it's responsibility, it's stress, it's sometimes overwhelming, and I love it. Now, if I hadn't learned how to truly expand my capacity, truly expand my emotional resilience for all emotions, I wouldn't be here doing this work. I couldn't cope. If I took myself 5 years ago and brought that version of me into this moment, that version of me would be crying in a corner. And that's not an exaggeration. I probably would just not want to get out of bed. because it'd be too much. Now, when I say emotional resilience, expanding, deepening emotional resilience, that just simply means expanding your capacity to experience emotion, all emotion. So that's stress, overwhelm, anger, fear, anxiety, happiness, excitement, love, resentment. It's all the emotions. We're not just picking and choosing which ones we like and leaving out the rest. You don't get to do that. When we expand our capacity to experience emotion, it's to all of them. And typically the good emotions, okay, I said good emotions, comfortable emotions is typically how I call them. Because no emotion is good or bad. They are all very necessary. Comfortable emotions are easy. It's like sailing a boat on a sunny day with a gentle breeze. Super easy. It's really easy then to just feel good and be in a good mood and have a good time and feel like you can handle things. It's when there is a storm happening and the mast has broken, there's maybe a leak in the boat, that's when it gets hard. That's when it's uncomfortable. And that's typically when we want to escape and not have to deal with it. And that escape comes through things like BFRBs, because they help us, they give us a short-term solution for a long-term problem. They give us an escape, a break. They help us put a lid on the discomfort that we're feeling. So we don't have to feel it too intensely. But the thing is, the more of that intensity that we can learn to handle without getting overwhelmed, the more connected we're going to be to ourselves, the more grounded we're going to feel, the more we're going to trust ourselves, the more confidence we'll have, the more we can show up authentically, because we're not trying to find ways to just escape. And as we can hold more, essentially, the more emotions you can experience, the more of yourself you can hold. The more of yourself you can hold, the more of you that you can be. This is why I say healing from BFRBs is essentially you becoming deeply confident and authentic. Because that is the result of being deeply connected to your body. Now, the past couple of weeks have been hard. It has felt at times that I am out at sea in a storm with a broken mast and a hole in my boat. The difference now, though, is that I deepen into my body in those moments rather than try and escape. In saying that, it doesn't mean I have moments where I don't want, there's definitely been moments where I've just wanted to escape. I've just wanted to just shut it off and walk away. But through these somatic practices and many other things that I've done over the past 5 or so years, but specifically somatics, have helped me to stay grounded in myself and connect back to self-belief, trust, and navigate the intensity of the past couple of weeks with more grace. So what does it look like to engage in somatics? It looks like when I notice that I'm in overwhelm, I respond to that in the way of giving myself what I actually need in that moment, which is a break. And when I say a break, I don't mean I go and scroll on my phone, or I try to escape what I'm feeling, or I avoid the things that are stressing me out or overwhelming me. It means that I put technology away. I go have a shower and I hum in the shower, because humming stimulates your vagus nerve, which helps to regulate your nervous system. It means I light a candle. I do dry brushing, which is another somatic practice that helps to regulate your nervous system. I go for a walk outside. I lean on meditation. I do something creative. I slowly move my body and I do stretches for 15 minutes or half an hour, really moving into what feels right for my body. There is rarely a day that goes by where I don't engage in some sort of somatic practice. And the reason for that is that I want to deeply care for myself. The reason why I do these things isn't to prevent a picking session. It's not to try to contain myself. It's because I see that I'm not okay, and I love myself and care for myself deeply enough that I want myself to be well, because I care for me. Not because I think you're not good enough when you're like this, and what are people going to think, or you can't perform when you're like this, or you got to take care of yourself so that you don't let other people down. That's not where I'm coming from when I engage in these practices. I'm coming from a place of self-love and care. It's like if you have a child who isn't doing well, would you support them because you're embarrassed to let other people see them struggle? Because you think they're not good enough when they're struggling, and so you need to just make sure that they eat so they can still function and be useful? Or are you going to take care of them because you care for them and you don't want to see them struggle? You don't think they deserve to feel or be that way. That is my approach. That is how I feel when I engage in these practices. And it's been over many years that I've been exploring and finding what works for me. And that can change day to day. How I connect with my body. I'm going to be sharing with you a resource at the end of this where there are specific somatic practices that I found to be the most helpful, especially with BFRBs. Now, there is something that I need to say, because this is a mistake that a lot of people make with this kind of work, is that somatic practices aren't going to cure you. They are a practice, not a cure. They are a way of showing up for yourself, of connecting with yourself. So a lot of people experience disappointment when they first start into this process, into doing this deep work, connecting with themselves, engaging in somatics. They think, well, if I start doing this, it's going to fix all my problems. I'm not going to feel stressed anymore. I'm going to feel more comfortable in myself. It's going to make everything better. And then people engage in these practices and they realize, I still don't feel great. I'm still struggling with the same things. And then they stop. They think, well, that clearly doesn't work, so I'm going to go try and find the next thing that does. And this is when we need to pause. Because this looking for a cure, this looking for a solution to the things that you don't like about yourself or your life, or the things that you're not too happy with, you're never going to find the perfect solution. And it's because you don't need to be fixed. And I know we get that on a logical level. We all get that on a logical level. It's a very different thing to fully embrace that on a somatic level, to really feel in your body that you're okay with who you are in this moment. Even though you can see that there's space to grow and learn, and there's still some things you want to work on in yourself, that you love you fully for who you are right now. And a lot of us have been taught from a very young age that who we are, as we are, is not enough. And it takes some time to undo that, because that's some deep programming. And somatics is a way to gently and lovingly connect to yourself and show yourself through your actions and the way you interact with yourself, with your body, that you're enough. Somatics is essentially tools that help you to strengthen your relationship with yourself. And a true healthy relationship isn't built if you're constantly trying to fix the other person. I mean, think of a friend. If they're constantly pointing out things that aren't okay in you, that you need to fix, that you need to work on, that aren't good enough, if they're giving you things to do, like books to read and practices to engage in and things to do, because who you are right now just is not okay. It's not good enough. We need to fix this so you can be okay. It would feel horrible. It wouldn't feel nice. But if we engage in these practices in a place of, I want to get to know you better. I want to have this experience with you. I want to get curious about what's there. I want to connect. That's when life can feel like it starts to slow down. It becomes a practice of how you show up for yourself, the dedication that you have for yourself. This journey of, I want to be always deepening my relationship with me. I want to look for new opportunities and ways to love myself better, show up for myself more, respond to my body in a better way. And it's when we experience these really challenging moments, like I've experienced past couple of weeks, that's when we get to really deepen into those practices. It's also when we typically want to leave all the practices behind and then just fall back into old patterns, which is usually self-neglect and just pushing through and pushing harder and just getting shit done. This is when deepening into those practices really makes a difference. And I particularly noticed this when I was severely overwhelmed. I could feel it. I could feel the tension building up in my head. My heart was racing. I was really frustrated. I was feeling really stuck. Like I couldn't find the way forward. And I felt like I don't have the knowledge or the skills here to figure this out. And it was in that moment that I recognized that I am not coping. I noticed myself looping and spiraling, And it took me another half an hour for me to respond to that in a different way, but I did eventually respond to it. I turned off my technology and I took a moment to sit with myself and breathe deeply into my body and to experience the intensity of what I was actually experiencing. Because when I was in that moment trying to just get it done and fix it, it's because I wanted a release. I wanted an escape from what I was feeling. I thought if I can just fix this, I'll feel okay. But the thing is, the problem that I have, I couldn't fix it in that moment. And I just kept looping and spiraling, thinking like, I don't want to feel this way. I don't like this. It's uncomfortable. I can't handle this. And my mind was like, the only way you can get rid of this is if you fix the problem, which I could not fix. And so these somatic practices that I have allowed me to take a step back, to ground myself, experience the intensity of what I was experiencing, ground myself in that moment, and find my inner peace, I guess you could say it, amongst the chaos of what I was experiencing. There is no perfect solution right now. This just sucks, and I can't fix it. And it's a shit place to be in, let's be honest. It's not a nice feeling. And regardless of that, I thought I don't want this to determine how I feel about myself and the rest of my day or the rest of this week. And so I also gave myself boundaries and guidelines on how I would deal with that problem the next day, because it's still an ongoing problem. I haven't found the solution yet. I'm working on it. But often in our pursuit of escaping discomfort, we neglect ourselves in the process because we don't want to have to sit too long in the discomfort. Through somatics, I allowed myself to sit in the discomfort, recognize that this is not a quick fix. It's going to take some time. And I put boundaries around how much of my time and energy I would allow this problem to take from my day, so that I could protect my own emotional well-being and my own mental health. And through that process, I grounded back into that belief in myself that I will find a way forward. I will figure this out somehow. It may not be the way I expected. It may not be in the time frame that I wanted it to be, but I will find a way forward. And I can handle the discomfort of this right now. I'm still going to find ways to make myself feel warm and cared for and centered and grounded and allow myself to sleep well. That is an example of emotional resilience. It's turning towards the intensity and allowing yourself to sit in it and responding to it in a way that is right for you. And when we start to turn towards the discomfort and expand our capacity to sit and be okay with ourselves inside of it, we start to let go of things like chronic skin picking, hair pulling, nail biting, because those tools help us to avoid the discomfort. When we get good at sitting in it, we don't need those tools anymore, which is where I found myself, which is why I'm not afraid of falling back into chronic skin picking again, because I built my capacity. And I know that I will continue to build my capacity for discomfort, continue to build emotional resilience, because somatics are integrated into my life. It's a way of life now. Loving myself deeply, connecting to myself, connecting to my body is a way of life. And it will continually help me to navigate life in a way that is more authentic to me, because I am more of me. So this is how somatics can help you heal. You become more you become more authentic, you become more confident, more grounded, you experience more of life. And to help you on this journey, I created a free guide where I've included the 5 somatics that I swear by. Some of the somatics in that guide I use every single day. In fact, I'm going to use one after recording this to help me to regulate myself, because again, I'm not feeling great today, had been quite stressful. So I needed a little bit more TLC. It's not only going to include 5 somatics, but there are also 2 insider tips that help you to deepen the practice of those somatics. They help you specifically in the context of your BFRB. So if you want access to this free guide, go ahead and click on the link in the show notes and you'll get it there. Otherwise, thank you for hanging out with me in this episode again. I hope you found it relatable. I hope you feel seen and heard. I never want to come across in this podcast as like I've got all my shit together and like a guru kind of energy. I don't want to be giving that off. So I do try to be real with you and share what's really going on, because the reality of healing from chronic skin picking is not that life is suddenly perfect and everything's good. Like, it's still hard sometimes, because this is a human experience. And no human experience is perfect. No human experience is without its challenges and struggles. Despite whatever you're struggling with right now, it doesn't mean you can't find your path forward. So thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please do leave a 5-star review. I deeply appreciate the support, because any kind of review, they help to push this podcast out to more people. So in doing that, you are supporting me and you are supporting the rest of this community as well, which I super appreciate. Have a beautiful week wherever you are. And I will see you next Tuesday for the next episode of Untapped Confidence.